Okay, not enough.
Or hold on,
For Zoom.
for Zoom,
Like, you have to change the camera right now.
right there.
Oh, so everything's good? Okay, alright, so I'm KJ, and, so I am gonna just share like my kind of like life story and sum it up and try not to talk too long. And then I have written down just some different components and tips, I guess you could call them, of things that I've noticed, in the clinic myself so far, and then just growing up, before I was even completely deaf, which I'll get to that, and then now when I am completely deaf. And I have given this list to all of my special needs friends and their moms, and it has been approved by many people, and they all agree. And so we're hoping that by kind of changing the way maybe you guys see the special needs population, it would help change how you guys treat them and just kind of break down some of the intimidating factors that I think a lot of people have when you have patients or you see people with special needs. Sometimes we don't always know how to interact with them and communicate. And so hopefully this will help. Okay. So my story starts when I was a little girl. We don't really know what I was born with as far as level of hearing, but when I was 8, 9-ish is when we first noticed that I had some kind of hearing impairment. So during the pediatrician beep test, where you just tell them if you can hear the beep or not, I wasn't passing that. So, and this was in South Florida, so I grew up in South Florida, and then that doctor was like, hey, you guys should go get it checked out by an actual ear, nose, and throat doctor. So they sent us to the best one down there. His name was Dr. Sharkey. And so we started a series of tests with him. So this went on for 8 to 10 weeks. Each week was a different test. They put you in a soundproof booth. So I don't even think a hearing person can hear something in there. But they put you in the booth, and then there's different purposes for every test. So you usually have some kind of a headphone thing on you, and then a button in their hand to push, and then sometimes they have speakers in there, so sometimes they'll be talking outside, and then you are supposed to say something or push the button when you hear everything, right? So I didn't know what the instructions were though, so there was a total miscommunication there, and I was not the confident kid to be I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and they did not let mom or dad come back with me. They always had to wait in the waiting room. So then I didn't have anyone back there to be listen, she doesn't know what she's supposed to be doing. And so the nurse, she would always come in, just very angry. So her facial expression, you could tell everything, which goes into something I'm gonna tell you guys. Everything is red on your face and with your body language. You can tell so much about a person in 5 minutes of just watching them. So she was always very mad at me, okay? And she was just you have one more chance to get this right, Katie, and then we're done. And so that would happen, and I was I couldn't wait to go home. And I would literally be so anxious about every single appointment going there. I was just sweating it was a mess, okay? So then we finish their series of testing, and then my mom was with me, and we went to the room and met with Dr. Sharkey, and he was I think she's just trying to get attention. She can't be telling the truth. We didn't find anything wrong with her. So he was just I think she's lying just to get attention. And I mean, other kids might do that, but my mom was she's not that kind of kid. And I was just very quiet and observant, growing up. And I remember just sitting back all the time and just watching people, birthday parties, whatever it was. If there was a game going on, before I played, I had to sit back and watch for a good amount of time so that I knew what was going on and how to play, because communication mid-game, it just wasn't possible. So then I was just very observant. So then I picked up on reading lips without really knowing it. I didn't realize I was doing this until high school. So then in high school, so I was homeschooled some of my life, and then I dual enrolled in college starting junior year. And then we were always involved in all the sports and everything. And in sports games, I would just be scoring for the wrong team and very proud of it. So I always won most of my second board. It was great. So then that went on. Coaches just thought I wasn't paying attention, and so it was just I got yelled at a lot. But and you can tell that people are yelling at you by their facial expression. So it's not just because I couldn't hear, it wasn't loud to me, but I still knew that they were mad, right? So then Okay, so then in high school, so I was sitting up front. I always sat up front and just like stared down the teacher the entire time, okay? And so then I realized, because when the teacher wasn't looking at me, I like stopped to think about it, and I was like, dude, I really have no idea what the teacher just said, because I couldn't see his lips. And so then I was like, all right, that's interesting. So then you just have to put everything together. So everything is a puzzle, right? And so you just use whatever the teacher said when he was looking at me, and then if you turn, usually he was like writing something on the board or whatever, so you use that, and then whatever he said, you turn back around at me, and then you put it together. Or if someone is sitting next to you, you can kind of like take your eyes off of him for 2 seconds and like see what they're writing down while he's turned around so that you can put that together. So that's how we did it. So that's how we did it through high school and college, and I took Spanish because I was embarrassed about like being deaf but not actually knowing the extent of it. I was just like, it's fine, and I decided, like, my parents wanted me to go to another doctor, but I was like, no, it's fine, because that was just a terrible experience, and I was like, I don't want to have to go through those tests again, and it just created so much anxiety in me. So I was like, no, it's fine, I can live with it. So then college swimming, so I was a swimmer, and I would always get false starts, but it was hard to like, look down, and if I was like in a lane, it was close to like the main buzzer judging starter station, then it was fine, I could hear it a little bit to go. But other than that, it is what it is. I did the best I could. And yeah, so then I finished my bachelor's. I took Spanish instead of ASL because I was just embarrassed about it. And at the time I was like, oh, I don't need that. So then, here we go. So fast forward to getting to my bachelor's. I taught at CrossFit and switched to more master swimming maybe like 5-6 years ago. And then I had a rotator cuff repair on this shoulder. And then 2 years after that, so 2021, I had a rotator cuff repair on this shoulder and became frozen. So then at that point, that is when I gave my life to Jesus. And so then that just changed everything, my perspective on everything. And we didn't even know that I was going deaf at that point. And so, but first, when I was 26, so because I wasn't gonna be my parents' insurance anymore, so they were like, go get it checked out again, please, please, please. So at the time I was living in Jacksonville, and I was about to start my PTA program. And I was like, okay, I'm confident, like if he tells me I'm lying again, it's fine, I can deal with it, I'm so fine. So we went, and his name is Dr. Green, and he's the best. He's done all my brain surgeries, and like, so he's amazing. So I went to him, and we just did like the very first test, and he got it done so quickly. And he was like, Katie, like, I don't know, and I have never seen this before in anyone. And he's like up in his 70s, and he's like, I've never had someone who is like profoundly deaf, and you have done all of these things, and you like compete in these things. And he was just like, tell me, how is this happening? And I was like, it's fine, I just read your lips, and this is how we do it. And he's like, wow, okay. He's like, you're really happy for a deaf person. I was like, thanks. So then he's like, well, we don't know. So at that time, we didn't know that it was going to be progressive deafness, and we had nothing really to base off of from when I was a kid. So it was like 40 to 45% in this year, and then 25% in this year. So we tried hearing aids first, and they worked for, I guess, like 2 years. But we talked about it, and hearing aids just increase the volume of sound, so they have nothing to do with the clarity. But we knew my cochleas, like the hair cells, were completely frayed from the beginning. So he's like, that's never gonna get better. So there's two, like there's hair cells for volume, and there's hair cells for clarity. And you guys use both of those things to understand speech. And so my understanding speech has always been terrible. So even if I used to hear the volume of a sound, but I had no idea what was being said to me without reading the lips. And that was for a long time, most of my life. And so the hearing aids helped a little bit more because they did increase the volume. And so I remember I heard a couple new things. I heard the ocean, that's what it was. I heard the ocean with my hearing aids in, and so that was like super exciting, and I mean, I had to be like close to it, but it's like, wow, this is so cool, and then if you get in the water, you gotta obviously take them off. So there was like a couple of things, and then I think I hurt my stomach gumbo one time, and I was like sick, and then I like threw up. I was like, that's such a cool sound, you know? Like, I feel it, but I just didn't know how to sound. So then, you know, with them on me, I was like, this is pretty fun. And I still relied on lips, but you know, it was okay. And well, it was okay until COVID started. So then COVID started, so 2020, and then all of a sudden the whole world was just wearing masks, which was extremely difficult, and you know, I was just, I don't know how it's gonna happen, like, we just had to talk about it, and I graduated PTA school the end of mid-2020, so it was like hard to navigate, how are we gonna communicate, and how are we going to be doing this too, you know, and it was very, like, I don't know, I guess like a combination of like humiliating and vulnerable to just have your patient in front of you, and I was like, I don't even know what they're saying, and then like, you look around and every other therapist and every other patient has masks on too, so that you're just like, you don't know what's going on. So not as much as it is being totally deaf, but at that time, it was like a good introduction to like, not knowing what's going on around you. So then I had my very first deaf patient in St. Augustine, and there's a deaf school there. I didn't even know that was a thing, but she told me. I was like, oh, that's so cool. She's like, oh, you didn't go there? I was like, no, I didn't even know that they had deaf schools, but they do have them. And so we worked together, and she's literally my deaf name, and she had glasses on. So with masks, we did try wearing the clear masks, but they just kept fogging up, and they still made her glasses fog up. So I have contacts, so I can be deafblind, but contacts in, so that we're not. But so then with her, we just had a situation, but it was a very good like introductory experience to actually, it's my first deaf person I've ever met. So of course I was like, please give her to me. And so, and just watching her. So the other therapists always came to me and they were like, Katie, she's very angry and she's very upset and she won't do anything. She doesn't want to do anything, and good luck. And that's literally like what they told me. And I think she had like 2 treatments before she was put on my schedule for the whole rest of the time. But I was watching them, and she did have an interpreter with her. They weren't very good. But they had them there, and they were late, and it was just, so she was waiting, and she also relied on transportation, so the whole thing was just very hard for her, right? And no one would talk to her because they didn't know how to, so like, even in the waiting room, like everybody was afraid to go up and say hi to her. It was this whole deal, and all the therapists were talking about her behind their backs, and it was just very sad. So then she put her on my schedule, and we instantly I guess just connected like very well, and it was really easy. But and it was very healing, I think, for both of us, and especially in that time of, I guess, our world where communication was like seemingly impossible to have each other. And so she taught me a lot, and she ended up, after our first time like treatment together, she was like, just tell the interpreter agency to stop sending them so that, you know, we don't have to rely on that, because there's just a lot that goes into that. And so she was just with me the whole time, and we eventually, almost. Okay, so we're gonna talk faster. Okay, so that was that, and that was great. And the point of that story was talk to the patient or talk to the interpreter, and they're not frustrated. So they're not, she wanted to know what was going on. Everybody was talking about her, around her, nobody was telling her what was going on. And so it just comes off as being frantic, and I have had to apologize to Hannah and people around me multiple times in the last 2 days, because I can feel that same way sometimes, where like, you just don't know, you see everybody else doing things, and they're getting up and they're talking, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, and then I feel like rushed, and so I'll get flustered, and so she'll just look at me like, Katie, just breathe. So we stop and breathe. So that's that. So then me, we found out my hearing was going completely away last year, maybe like 3 months before we started the program. It's like a year and a half ago. And so it was dropping to like 16%, and then he's like, we'll definitely need to keep tracking this, so let's come back in like a month and a half, so we did, and it had dropped again to 5%. We don't know why, something genetic, but it's the biggest blessing from Jesus, so it's amazing. But then at that point, we were like, cochlear implants are the only option to at least be able to communicate maybe a little bit easier. And there's a lot of, you see like the babies that get these things, and there's like the light bulb moments, and they think, oh, that's so cute. It's not like that at all. But we did it. I said no to cochlear implants. So they wanted me to get them 2 years ago. But I said no because you lose all your residual hearing when you go through with the surgery. And I was very afraid of that. And that was before I had given my life to Christ. So I was like, absolutely not. I was like, I've lived 26 years, 27 years of my life with this much hearing, and like, I'm not gonna do it. Keep hearing aids, we're fine. So then, when I found out my hearing was going away completely, I had a totally new perspective just from giving my life to Christ, and I was like, well, we prayed about it, and Jesus distinctly told me, like, if you say no out of fear of going completely deaf and never being able to get your hearing back, nothing can be undone. So if you do that, then you're just missing out on everything I have for you on the other side. So we were like, okay, we're gonna do this. And 3 days later, I made it into this program. I was like, oh wow, like you really think I'm gonna do that? And so, yeah, that was very interesting. I didn't know. And so I'm like learning how to be deaf along with you guys. So we're kind of figuring it out. But everything is figure outable. So it's been amazing to kind of like work with like teachers and have interpreters for the first time and how to use them. And so, yeah, so the surgery was in April or May, and this one's in September, and they're both on me. So this one's name is Rumble, this one's name is Remy. It's so weird that I named them. And basically we're at the point of, they alert me to like, if something kind of is going on around me, but it's not hearing, and it's very overwhelming, it can be very frustrating, and it's like not peaceful whatsoever. And then we just started listening therapy. So everything is dependent upon how your brain adjusts to and learns. You have to read them everything. So it's basically a third language, and I started learning ASL 2 times the speed like a year and a half ago, and I found all this out. So I was like, oh, I should have taken that in college, but it's okay. So now this is like a third language, and I have not been as consistent as I should with the listening therapy, so it's just, it kind of makes you want to cry, because you pick from the options, but none of it sounds like any of that, and they all sound the same, and so you can just keep guessing, but yeah, anyway, so it's on my phone, and so there's that. But as far as hearing goes, it's not, I don't hear, and even y'all sound, I don't know what your voice, everyone's voices sound the same, but it's different from even the app, so it's kind of like, I'm very confused with the whole thing. It's fine. So then, okay. So then the tips. Oh well, this is Miss Linda. So she was one of my patients. Probably she's like a mom to me now. She wasn't necessarily special needs. She just had a lot going on physically, and her presentation, like she was completely dependent, and so. Pretty much, she was nonverbal though, I would say, because she was losing her voice. So her brain is deteriorating. In fact, she's in hospice right now in Jacksonville. So hopefully she'll make it so I can see her one more time. But her brain is deteriorating, so she lost her voice. So even so, we were able to communicate, and we both knew exactly what each other was saying, and she could move her hand for a little bit, so I taught her like bathroom. She knew, well, KK, so she would just hold up the K. It was pretty cute. So it was amazing to just be able to, we could still do it. And a lot of the doctors were like, wow, like, you guys are quite the dynamic duo here. Like, you can't hear and she can't talk, and how's this going? It's going great. Like, we have so much fun. So anyway, that's Miss Linda. And then this, you can't really tell, this we were at this special education school in Jacksonville, and I was KK, and then we had Santa, and that's my friend Luther. He's a paraplegic, and he was Santa. The kids were just like untouchable, and then his wife was Mrs. Claus, and they just love it. They notice something like it's different about you, because they have like a hearing Santa and like a standing Santa and all of that on another part of the same thing. But like all the kids wanted to come to us, so all the moms were like, "Are you guys their teachers?" I was like, "No, I just met him," but he was just like attached to you, so it was amazing. And Then this is Kayla, and she is deaf as well, and she also has cerebral palsy. And so she is one of my friends. She is 8, I believe. And so her and her mom are good friends, and we were running a 5K, about to run a 5K in that picture. So that was a lot of fun. So then, let's see, in Jacksonville, I've been involved with special needs ministry at church, and then Ansley's Angels, which is like another, like, I guess, you pretty much like do races with people, so you can volunteer and then you push them. They just got to do these Spartan races, and so you're just like their buddy, so it's a lot of fun. And so these are some points that we all want to share with you guys. Okay, so this is coming from all of us. But the first one is just love everyone, and they will know like what's in your heart. So you can read body language and facial expressions, and you can tell someone's entire personality and everything within just a few minutes of watching them. So not to sound creepy, but they know that you're intimidated, they can tell that you're nervous, and it's okay because they want to communicate with you. And most of the time, I mean, I know I can speak for myself, but most of us have been treated so inferiorly and just bad about it our entire lives. And so it's kind of like they're already feeling their self-esteem is just like shot, and they know like what's going on, they know what they can't do. And so when they see you even just go out of your way to just want to communicate and want to love them, and just, it changes everything. So they can tell when you're like being real about it, and they can tell when you're faking it, and they can tell when you're annoyed with them. And so, and they see that before, kind of like we watch people when they come into the clinic, like they're always watching how you treat other people too. So they know whether you're actually like the real deal, or whether you're just, you know, talking the talk, walking the walk, the whole thing, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then the more you guys can kind of get out of your world, I didn't know how else to say it, but kind of get out of your world and get into theirs, and just get on their level, more so, then the easier communication is gonna be. So I think that's been like the biggest thing, is just, even though, you know, I can't necessarily picture myself having cerebral palsy, but I know what it's like in another respect. And so it's like trying to just put yourself in their shoes as much as you can, and then figure out what communicating things you can do to make it go smoother, and how they communicate, and then feed off of that and just build off of that, because it's gonna look different for every single person. And I mean, we still make up new signs every single day. I'm like, well, it works. So like, you just run with it. So that is a huge thing. And then opening their eyes to the gifts that they've been given. So a lot of times, and I have been told this my entire life, you know, you don't have the same energy expenditure as a hearing person. So like, you'll never be able to compete alongside them, because all of my energy, and if it's a blind person, like all of their energy, like whatever special need you have, all of your energy goes into communicating and trying to just figure out what's going on around you. So it's very mentally exhausting. Without implants, without listening therapy, without any of that, just going to the store is just very mentally exhausting, and it's very vulnerable. So when I first like completely went deaf, and the first time like I went to the store, I'm like, wow, like there's just things going on. Like someone could be behind me with a gun at any moment, and I would have no idea. And like, I don't hear cars coming. Like you have to constantly just keep your head on the swivel. And so that's another reason why you just always feel like you're missing out on everything around you, which in a sense you are, but that's why it can get overwhelming. And so then, what was I talking about? Oh, so as far as gifts go, like every single person with special needs does run on different batteries. So in a sense, I will never have the same energy as a hearing person, but I have a capacity to do more because I've had to work harder my entire life. And my coach opened my eyes to this maybe like a month ago, and he's like, Katie, like, this may be true and it's not wrong, but because you do have to keep your head on the swivel all the time, then like my energy and my battery life might be longer than a normal person, because I have to pay attention 10 times like the amount or speed, and I can't multitask anymore. So I can't just go and like listen to things, or like if we're in sync, I have to be like reading the captions and putting together the missing puzzle pieces And so it's kind of like, in a way it's a good thing, 'cause it slowed me down, like, just do one thing at a time, whereas I love to multitask, and I can just be doing 15 million things at a time, but I can't anymore because you're not doing anything, so I don't know what it's saying, and so, yeah, you get the deal. So just opening their eyes to the fact that they have the capacity to do more, even though people are telling them that, they'll never be able to do it, and they may never be able to do it the way that normal people can do it, but there is always a way for them to do things, and so creating that in them is gonna help whatever you're trying to get them to do, and get back to doing. So that's been really cool. So that just goes into changing their perspective, and seeing it as more of a superpower than not. I mean, like, I feel very blessed, but with everything that's been going on, like, I feel incredibly blessed to have been given these gifts, and I feel like it has shown me so much, and yes, things will always be harder and always look different, but that's okay, because like, how cool is that Jesus chose to give this to me, that I can walk this journey. And so if you open your eyes to the fact that it's so cool to be different, and like just all the things that they can do that, theoretically normal people have no idea how much work it takes to have special needs, and how much work it takes to communicate and just keep your brain running all day long, but you do. And so just helping them see that and bringing that out of them, they're gonna be like, wow, I feel really cool, like, let's do this, And ask, the parents. So if it's like if they come and they're like under 18, and they have parents with them, definitely include them. Parents want to be included, and they often know like the most about their kid's diagnosis or whoever it is, even if it's an adult and they have a parent come with them, they're with them the most of the time, and so don't be afraid to get them involved, and for sure you need to get them involved, and maybe help change their perspective too. So there could be multiple things going on, but you want both of their perspectives to be like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna figure out how it's gonna happen, and this is amazing, and let's go, okay? And then a lot of people will apologize. So a lot of times, I'll be like, I'll tell someone that or whatever, and they're either, can you prove it? Because I speak so well, and so they're like, I don't believe you. I'm like, you're not the first one, okay? But I was like, I don't know how to prove it to you. Like, I can show you my scars. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Or in fact, I have magnets on my head. It's not gonna stick to your head. So like, what do you think is going on? But no, I don't look back. I just like, well, yeah, I am. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. And that must be so terrible. And I'm like, it's actually really not. And so that doesn't make them feel good. So just instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry, because that just makes it seem like there's something wrong with them, but there's really nothing wrong with them at all. In fact, it's the biggest gift and the biggest blessing. So we're trying to make them see that, not like, oh, you have something wrong with you that we're gonna try to fix, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with this. Instead, go something along the lines of, I don't understand how hard this is, and I don't understand what you're going through, but I want to. And then do something to show them that. So don't just say it, because I mean, how many times are people like, oh, I'm gonna learn ASL, I would love to learn. Hey, great. And then, they just forget it, and then just, I mean, that's fine, we all wanna learn, and there's a lot of things I wanna learn too, but if you're gonna say that you're gonna do something, then go do something, and figure out something that you can do to communicate with them, and then next time they come back, show them something. Show them what you did to prove to them that you want to learn, and you want to communicate, and you want to get into their world to help them be everything that they can be. And yeah, okay, so we're gonna practice, and they have some ideas for different things. I think like being blind, and a lot of things are very tactile. So I can only speak from a deaf perspective, but it's very, I am very like touchy, so I have to be careful. So like, like a lot of times I'll just go up and touch someone, and they're like, where are you? Why are you? We'll be like taking a walk together, and it's hard to take walks because I can't like talk while we're walking, or I can, but I have to be like looking at you. So some of the things that you guys do, like don't tell a patient like, oh, go listen to this podcast or go do something because like that is absolutely nothing, right? The whole metronome thing, there is like a app that has like a flashing light. Some of them don't. So we were able to find one that kind of has a flashing light. My coach did give me one thing, and you could just, I just watched like the thing. So basically, if it's a deaf patient, everything has to be visual, everything has to be in front of them. And if you go prone, communication, so like, make sure you lay out the lines before you do the thing. So I guess you should be doing this anyway, but especially for deaf and blind, make sure you talk them through what we're doing and where you're gonna put your hands and like how we're gonna communicate. So for example, like, I don't know, I was telling Hannah, like if we're doing something, like, okay, tap me when you want me to breathe. So like the other day when we were doing like all the lung stuff, kind of listening for the heart, or she would just like go a bee in front of my face when she wanted me to take a breath because she has to be behind me. So like, just be thinking like a few steps ahead. But usually like I'll lay out the communication, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and if I have my patient, like I'm the therapist, so if they're face down, then I just tell them, they already know this about me because when I introduce myself, I tell them we're just gonna play charades the whole time. So I give them like cues to tell me, thumbs up, thumbs down, pain, no pain, but we'll lay out the communication before we go and do the thing so that they know what to do. So I think that's huge. And yeah.